What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Rich Movie Podcast, the podcast where everything is connected. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and joining me is my co-host and friend and person most likely to ask me to hang out and then fake his death so we can get out of it, Alex Perkins. Perk, how you doing tonight?
I'm well, thanks. Yeah, that sounds pretty on brand for me.
I can see you doing that.
Definitely.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the show where every week Perk and I review a movie connected to the last one we watched. If you like our show, we post most Fridays on podcast services and YouTube. And watch movies with us. Last week we watched Citizen Kane featuring the great Orson Welles and followed into this week's picture, The Third Man. Perk, please intro it for us.
Yeah, all right. So The Third Man is a 1949 joint directed by Carol Reed, starring Orson Welles, Joseph Cotten, and Alida Valli. And it tells the story of a man who's invited to Vienna for a job by his old pal, and when he shows up, finds out his old pal is dead. Walks in on his funeral, and things are a bit fishy, so he starts poking around and investigating, and what do you know? He wasn't dead after all. He faked his own death. So, but he was also kind of a bad dude.
Yeah.
Couple fun facts. The Vienna Police Department actually has a special unit solely assigned to police the sewers because they're really like that, and often criminals would hide there because they're just like a maze of tunnels and stuff like that. Yeah, that's cool. The police officers who search in the tunnels in that chase scene, a lot of them were off-duty officers from that unit.
Nice.
Yeah, and this is just a funny one. As he was a huge fan of the film, Martin Scorsese wrote a major thesis on this movie in film school. He got a B+, and his tutor said, "Forget it, it's just a thriller."
Love that.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, Perk, both you and I are a little bit off our game tonight just due to sickness and stuff. But, so apologies if we're low energy. But all that being said, Perk, what did you think of The Third Man?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It's just a solid noir, a good mystery with interesting characters. I was pretty shocked at how dark the plot was, and like the character motivations of Harry Lime. I've heard about this movie a bunch of times because like I know the twist because it's a very famous twist, and I thought it was executed really well. And yeah, just overall, I enjoyed the movie quite a bit. Good story, easy to follow, nice and short, and it's really gorgeous to look at, which is always a good one for me. I will say one thing that I wasn't sure about, but the whole score being played on the zither,
the SpongeBob SquarePants soundtrack, you mean?
Yeah, super interesting choice, and in all honesty, didn't really pull me out of it. So I was impressed by that.
Unfortunately, it pulled me out a bit. This is what SpongeBob uses. And I felt like sometimes it was more comedic than maybe intentioned in some scenes, but
that might be just like a connotation.
Yeah. Maybe
that
back
has
then
since been added.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For me, I thought it was fine. I liked it fine. I was also kind of tired watching it, so that probably affected things a bit. Like I was kind of falling asleep during the whole sewer scene because it was going on for a bit, and I was kind of losing. But yeah, I think like I don't know. The twist wasn't super like crazy to me. Like I could kind of see it coming, and obviously something was up. Like I do like the cinematography a lot, where everything is kind of on a slant to indicate like things are off. Like but I think I just didn't find the main character that compelling. I thought Orson Welles was incredible, and I wish they had given him more to do. Unfortunately, he's dead for half the movie, so he isn't. He's not there. But when he did have lines, he's like just so mesmerizing to watch. Like, the entire scene on the Ferris wheel is like the best scene in the movie for me by far.
So good.
And I could have watched him have more evil monologues, for another hour. But he just has very little lines, and it's like a big bummer to me because I think he's just so good. So yeah, I don't know. I liked it fine. I wish it was more. I don't know. The twist was not as shocking as I had hoped, and then the ending was kind of drawn out for me. So yeah, I think the highlight was probably the cinematography on my end.
Fair enough. Yeah, on the twist itself, it wasn't surprising to me because I knew it. But like technically, I'm just a big fan. I really like they're discussing how, like, they mention Anna and Holly in conversation that the cat only ever liked Harry.
Yeah, and then immediately,
but the way that shot works, where it's like the camera pushes through the hedge off the balcony, and you see, Harry running around down in the street, and then the cat sneaking up on him, and then the mechanic of Holly walking drunkenly down the street and sensing he has a shadow, and the light coming on upstairs exposing Orson Welles' face, just so freaking good.
Yeah, no,
such a good scene.
I really like that. Yeah.
To quote the cinematic genius that is 13 Reasons, that smile, that damned smile, when Orson Welles gets shown in the light and just has that devilish grin, it's like, oh damn, all right, that's cool, because it's his introduction to the movie. And yeah, then it takes a very interesting turn, because to this point we've been informed, like, at first it was, well, this must all be a setup, and then he goes to talk to the cops, and they're like, here's our entire evidence portfolio, like, he's not a good dude. And then when they finally meet and talk, and that horrific scene in the Ferris wheel, it's like, wow, dude. When they're up at the top, you see those dots? If one of those dots went away and you got $10,000, would you really worry about it? Like, damn.
Yeah.
Icy.
Yeah. And I love that scene, and I love that turn, and that's one of the reasons why I was just kind of surprised by how what's her name? Anna behaves at the end of, like, I'm as ACAB much as the next guy. But your boyfriend's running a penicillin racket. Like, he was not a good dude. And you're like, I wouldn't be with him again, but I want him to get away. It's like, I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. Like, I don't know. I
didn't really identify with their motivations either. But
yeah, like, her and the main character, like, their entire personality is just all about Harry, which is just, I don't know, kind of boring. And then it's like, we get to see Harry, and he's super compelling, but we barely get to see him. So it's like, it's a little bit off balance of, like, I don't really care about these characters too much. I want to see Orson Welles, and then he's barely in the movie,
I suppose. I thought that the actress who played Anna,
Alida Valli.
Yes, Alida Valli. I thought she was great.
Yeah.
Even though, I like her point of view on things at the end is like, I would disagree. I know that you had a special connection with the man, but he's a bad dude. And given, it's not like, look at all the people that go back to domestic abuse situations.
Yeah.
Just because someone sucks doesn't mean you stop loving them. So I can understand it, but, poisoning children with polio, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's like, you can't be much worse than that to that time period.
No. And you're right. Most of their discourse between Anna and Holly is about Harry, but that's pretty much all they have in common.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely more on the, like, because they're kind of shown as a dichotomy, the two characters, because you've got Holly, who can't stomach what Harry's done, and so he ends up working with the police, and then you've got Anna, who just, wishes that he were dead so he wouldn't have to deal with this, rather than, wishes he were dead because of what he's done.
Right. Yeah. I will say I really liked how quickly we get into this movie. I feel like with a lot of these older films, we've seen that where it's like, we're going. Like, we start, we get the plot, we get to the city, we get to the funeral, we're going. And the setting reminded me a lot of Casablanca. Granted, this is post-war, not during the war, but just like a very interesting city where you have 4 different countries controlling it, and it's the politics of the entire, like, setting is compelling in of itself. I wish they had done a little bit more with that. Like, there's some of it with the Russians trying to get Anna and stuff, but we don't see too much of, like, the countries, like, interacting. But I thought it was an interesting setting to put the movie in.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that dynamic was super interesting to see, and, like, the little things about how Calloway, is he English police?
Yes, I believe so.
How he's, like, being forced to hand over Anna to the Russians, and is like, okay, and then can we get Harry Lime? And they're like, well, that's a whole different matter.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you
Mm-hmm.
know, rules for thee, not for me. But I thought that dynamic was super cool, and like the interplay and the like international zone.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's a very interesting like space in history, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember learning about that in school, that like Vienna had that going on.
No.
But that's kind of a trend with this podcast. We're learning stuff we didn't know about.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, let's talk about the cinematography more. I feel like pretty quickly, yeah, we get all like the over the shoulder shots are kind of an angle, and you're like,
lots of Dutch angles, lots of fully canted cameras.
But it didn't feel like too gimmicky to me. I feel like in other movies we've watched, I felt like it's more of a gimmick. And this one, it genuinely is like, okay, we're trying to indicate clearly like things are off. And I think it works like pretty well throughout, I would say.
I agree. I thought that it's not there. There are a lot of shots that are off at an angle, but most of the time they're not. Like it doesn't stick out as a sore thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And the color palette of, well, no color. That's a dumb way to put it, but the color grading, the shading is so beautiful that it's like it's just such a nice movie to look at for me. And you're right. The angled shots are often thematic because like not everything is just straightforward. It's everything's kind of slanted depending on the way that you're looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, the use of light is really good when they reveal Lime for the first time, and it was a really pretty movie. What did you think of the ending?
So I liked it. I don't know. It may have been a little bit too neat of a bow to tie, but I was kind of hoping that Harry Lime was gonna die. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, did you see ambiguity in it or something?
No, I just like it went on for so long. Like that entire chase scene went on for like feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah, but there have been a lot longer.
That's true. Well, it was that combined with the final shot of her walking. Again, I'm sorry. I was falling asleep.
That was a very long shot.
I was falling asleep. I'm just like,
sure.
End this movie, please. I'm dying. Yeah, that's where
I really liked that final shot, but it definitely is a long one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I liked the chase scene. I thought it was pretty well done. It wasn't as long for me as it was for you, but that could have just been the frame of reference we were looking at it.
I just wish I cared that Holly had to kill his friend, but I weirdly didn't. You know, like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, at that point, surely everyone's rooting for him to get his comeuppance. So.
No, yeah, for that angle, but it's like I would like to think in a story of like, oh, my best friend turned out to be evil. I'm torn, but I have to kill him. Like, but I don't know. I didn't really feel any tension there. It's just like, yeah, I guess that has to happen because he's a really bad dude, and you know.
I also really liked the shot at the end of that scene where Harry Lime's got his fingers up through the gate.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
Like that close to freedom,
but
not quite. I thought that was a really powerful shot.
Yeah,
and then when he comes back down and sees Holly and gives like a nod, like I thought it was good. I was a fan.
Nice. Anything else you want to touch on in this movie?
Not really.
All right.
Yeah, I'd be more elaborate, but I'm a little under the weather.
Yeah, no worries. Recommendation wise, I would say Casablanca. Not the exact same type of plot, but similar kind of setting, and you got kind of three people, kind of an interplay, like two guys and a woman between them. So yeah, some similarities there.
I hadn't really thought of one, but I mean, there are a lot of noirs out there.
Yeah. One thing I was wondering, do you think this is one of the first time like a fake death plot point has been used?
That's a good question. I don't know. It would be hard to say.
Yeah. I was just wondering because like if this movie is very highly regarded, not saying it's not deserving, but I was just wondering if one of the reasons if it was one of the first times that you got a fake out death, but maybe it's been used before. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is end of the 40s, so I'm sure someone had done it by then.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is our review of The Third Man. You can go check it out if you're interested. But before we get to bonus reviews and we talk about what we're watching next week, let's do a very brief recap of the Oscars, Perk. I think, if you listen to our bonus episode predicting what was going to happen, we pretty much nailed it as far as like what we kind of thought was a win. Also, we were kind of worried that Oppenheimer would sweep, and it did.
It did to an extent. There were a few categories where like a couple other movies snuck in with some recognition. But, Oppenheimer cleaned up. It won like 7 Oscars. I think it was favored for like 9. So, whatever. It did really well. Poor Things did well. It swept through the production design, makeup, costume, all of that.
Yeah, I wished Barbie had snagged one of those, and they kind of shared the love there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's always a weird one, right? Because those categories usually go so hand in hand that I can see why they all went. I'm just glad that makeup didn't go to Maestro.
Yeah.
Because that just would have been weird. But I was right. The worst animated short film won.
Yep, I saw that. I thought of you immediately.
I was so upset. Like, I was unreasonably upset with that. Because people didn't watch him. They voted on him without watching him. Just saw a big name.
Yep.
I thought Lily Gladstone was going to win Best Actress. It went to Emma Stone. I think Emma Stone thought Lily Gladstone was going to win Best Actress.
If you watched her reaction, it's like she did not expect that to happen.
Which both were fantastic. So everything is deserved. Everything else was pretty much chalk, other than it was a bit of an upset for Boy and the Heron to take down Spider-Verse.
People are more mad about that than I expected. Like, I feel like
people,
like I didn't see a lot of like haters of Boy and the Heron online before this, but all of a sudden they're coming out of the woodwork and being like, Spider-Man's a great movie. I'm like, where were you guys the last like few months? Like, I've not seen any of this shit.
Yeah, I saw a lot of discourse from people who are like, Spider-Man's in my top 4 films of all time. What? This movie doesn't have an ending. Like, if you could paste 2 and 3 together, probably. Yeah. But how could a movie that's like 2/3 of a movie be your favorite movie of all? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great movie. I loved it, but I
had a lot of fun with that movie, but there's a lot more movie left.
Yeah. So yeah, that was odd, but I will say I'm so happy Godzilla won. Like, that is just so hype and amazing. They totally deserve it. That's why
everyone was rooting for that one for sure.
Yeah, and then American Fiction got Best Adapted Screenplay, which is awesome. And then of course Divine Joy Randolph got Best Supporting Actress. Like, those are the big 3 I cared about the most.
Anatomy of a Fall getting recognition for Best Original Screenplay is very cool. There was a lot of love for Jonathan Glazer's Zone of Interest, which he brought up. I've seen a lot of discourse about people seeing parallels to the Gaza situation, and Jonathan Glazer mentioned something about that. So
yeah, that's good.
That's pretty cool. The Best Documentary Feature went to 20 Days in Mariupol. I pronounced that wrong, but documentary about the Ukraine war situation. And they had a lot to say, and it was really nice. The creators of the animated short War is Over had nothing to say about any wars, and they went up there and thanked Epic Games. So that's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
Glad we gave them an Oscar. Sorry, I digress once again. But yeah, most everything was pretty expected, but honestly, I think a lot of it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's always tough when big movies get shut out. Like, Killers of the Flower Moon was nominated for 10 and got 0, which is really tough. But the only one that I really thought that they were going to win was Best Actress, even though editing probably they should have won. But so it goes.
Yeah, it was Nolan's year, which, again, all these people were deserving. It's just would have been nice to see more diversity among the winners.
So many of these, and like the Oscars are always like this, where it's like, it's their year. Like, Robert Downey Jr. was going to win because he's due. Yeah. That's how that kind of thing works. So, Nolan was going to win because it's Nolan's year, right? So,
I will say
that stuff always happens.
The live performance of I'm Just Ken kicked ass. I don't know if you had to watch that, Perk, but yeah, it was so fucking funny. Absolutely killed it. And then the John Cena bit was great too.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling is a treasure.
Yeah, check him out, guys.
And yeah, the John Cena stuff is hilarious.
Yeah, it seems like people who watched it were like, "This is actually a good show overall."
Yeah, I was getting that same vibe, which usually people hate the Oscars. So
Mm-hmm.
it's nice that they maybe cleaned it up a little bit this year. I was impressed because I was at the airport just watching things roll through, and I'm like, wow, they're going pretty fast. Isn't this usually like a 4-hour show?
Mm-hmm.
But no, they clipped through it.
Yeah, hopefully they keep it up next year, and hopefully we have another banger year of movies. We'll see. All right, Perk. Now I'm gonna hand it over to you. You got bonus reviews. I got none, so I'm gonna sit back and relax. Will you regale me?
All right, okay. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rewatches.
Okay.
Because I'm no longer on the hook to watch Oscar movies. And then 1 new movie. So I'll just speed through the rewatches first. Moneyball, which you're in agreement with me.
Yeah.
It's creeping up my list of like just favorite rewatchable movies.
Oh yeah, I can watch the movie every day if I wanted to.
I think I've watched it twice this year. Like it's getting up there. Like Inception's the most number of times I've watched a movie, but Moneyball is just so easy to go back to.
Yeah.
I went on a vacation this weekend with some friends, and in the evenings we watched some movies. So we got Simpsons Movie and the Scooby-Doo movies, the live-action ones, which I've watched recently as well. Simpsons Movie is genuinely fantastic, and rewatching it, I didn't remember how many lines from that movie have just kind of worked their way into my vocabulary.
Yeah.
Like I just say stuff where it's like it originally was from that movie, and I'm like, oh, that's where that's from. What do you know? And we all know the Scooby-Doo movies are masterpieces that are overlooked by the years.
Exactly.
And then I just now, before we started, rewatched Arrival, so that's why my eyes are all red, because I was bawling like a baby.
So it worked for you on the rewatch?
Yes.
Okay. So when I rewatched it recently, it didn't hit as hard.
And it worked better for me from an emotional standpoint on the on the rewatch.
Nice.
So, love that movie. Love Denis. The man is goated.
Yeah.
So he's the sci-fi king at the moment. So, and then I have 1 new movie, which I watched, Theater Camp.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of gives off like Wet Hot American Summer vibes. With just a lot more focus on theater. There's a lot of in-jokes that I understood because my brother was in theater, but might go over some people's head. Excuse me. And it like the first half of the movie is like a joke per minute, hilarious. Really, really good to watch. The second half of the movie lost me a little bit. It drags, and it's a little too melodramatic and not as funny, but it's okay. It deserves to be a movie. I'm glad people are making weird stuff like this. Overall, thumbs up, but I was way more on board in the first half than the second.
Gotcha. Does like the structure change? Like, without spoiling it, I was curious. Is there like a thing that happens and the movie like changes, or is it
not really? Okay. It's just kind of like the whole thing is leading up to the last day of camp musical, and in the meanwhile they're dealing with like the camp maybe going under financially and the rich kid camp next door and all that, and it's it's just the like little one-off type jokes in the first half kind of go away, and it becomes more plot focused and loses some of that laugh per minute value, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm glad that, like I said, it's worth being a movie, but unfortunately it kind of falls off a little bit, but yeah. Actually, speaking of that, Perk reminded me, I wouldn't call it a bonus review, but so my roommate is a teacher and she's on spring break this week, so she's been home. And one of her guilty pleasures is Glee. And I've never seen Glee. I don't know if you've ever seen the show, Perk.
No.
I watched an episode with her. That show is insane. It is so unhinged, batshit crazy. Don't understand how it got 6 seasons. I'm baffled. So I would not recommend Glee if you're thinking about watching it. Anyone out there?
I wasn't.
It's insane. So that's my little tidbit from this week. But yeah, that's our show. Thank you everyone for watching or listening. Next week we are going to be watching The Seventh Seal. And Perk, what's our connection?
Both titles of these films include an ordinal adverb, third and seventh.
This is where we're at, people. And I'm sorry. All right.
It's a stretch, but roll with it. We make the rules. Okay?
We hope it's worth it because the premise of this movie sounds fucking awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. So The Seventh Seal is on HBO Max. So you can watch that pretty easily. Seventh Seal on Max. But until then, thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.